did this very good because we have an excellent speaker today. Carmen Dusek has practiced law in West Texas and Central Trial and Appellate Courts for 19 years. I don't speak lawyer, so if some words okay. She began her career working as a briefing attorney at the Third Court of Appeals in Austin. Thereafter, Carmen joined the Austin office of Jackson Walker. In 2000, Carmen and her husband James moved to San Angelo, where Carmen became a partner with her father, Symes at Symes Dusek LLP. Carmen's experience includes regular and frequent appearances in courts across the region, protecting individual business and agriculture interests in cases ranging from water rights, defending against class action and personal injury lawsuits, probate litigation, and family law. Carmen has a passion for protecting children and has been recognized for this work, being twice nominated for the State Bar of Texas Award for Distinguished Service to Children and Families. And in 2014, she was appointed by Governor Perry as the voice of West Texas on the Protect Our Kids Commission, where she served alongside judges, prosecutors, and experts in the prevention of child abuse and neglect. As part of her work with the Commission, Carmen is chairperson of its Family Fatality Review Team Committee. Carmen has also served the Concho Valley through her leadership roles at the organization, including the San Angelo Area Foundation, United Way of the Concho Valley, First United Methodist Church, the Children's Advocacy Center, San Angelo Civic Ballet, and the San Angelo Rotary Club. Cheers. Come on up and educate us.
Thank you all very much. Let me see. I'm going to juggle for just a second. James, would you fix that? Try not to unplug the cord. I'm not as graceful as Liz. I can promise I would go down. Don't share those. Thank you. Thank y'all so much for inviting me to be here today. What I hope to do is simply help provide a little bit of overview of our different courts in this area. We have so many courts out here that it can be complicated. People commonly get a little bit confused. Even last night I was visiting with James a little bit about this, and I had to help educate him after being married to me for 16 years on which appellate court things go to and where different cases go. So that was the goal, and the club has come to me and asked me to speak on this. What I want to start off with is we've got effectively 3 different levels of trial courts that serve here in Tom Green County, and then we've also got appellate courts. At the trial court level, first let's start with our local courts. You have your municipal courts. Those are the courts where, for instance, if you received a speeding ticket from a City of San Angelo police officer, that's where you'll go. And the majority of the cases that are heard at our municipal court levels, those are misdemeanor type minor criminal cases. Cases that involve a fine, traffic tickets is where the public generally comes into connection with the municipal court. You've also got city violations of ordinances, or violations of city ordinances, and so those are other matters that are heard at the municipal court level. Then we also have, at the county level, we have our justice courts, and I'm glad that we have 3 of our JPs here today. Kay Longest is our 4th JP. They serve different precincts within the county, and the justice courts, commonly called JP courts, those hear a broad variety of cases also. Those courts will hear misdemeanor cases that again involve a fine, not anything that could imprison someone, but if DPS has pulled you over, you'll likely be visiting with one of the JPs. I've had that experience myself. You wonder why I know all about the traffic citations. Anyway, so they have a large portion of their docket is going to be these smaller misdemeanor fine type of matters. They also hear civil cases though. And I know I've had a number of cases in front of Judge Howard over the years. They will hear matters that involve dollar amounts from 1 cent up to $10,000. And so if it's a dispute amongst people as to some type of a claim, that's the damage range that can go into the justice courts. Part of the justice courts also have separately is called small claims court. How many of y'all have heard of either JP court or small claims court? Okay. These over here don't get to answer. That'd be an unfair question. Small claims court is basically can hear the same type of civil matters that justice court, JPs do, and it's the same judges that have been elected to do that job. But in small claims court, it's easier for someone to represent yourself because the rules of evidence don't apply. And I can tell you the rules of evidence are one of those tricky things that when lawyers get a hold of them, we can keep all kinds of things out of evidence and we know how to get them in. But a pro se person representing themselves doesn't have to deal with the rules of evidence in small claims court. So that's one of the advantages to that court. Of course, our JPs also have other administrative responsibilities that involve much larger than just our courts. Now, anyone who goes to a JP court who is unsatisfied with their result, they can appeal it. They appeal it to one of our county courts at law, and that's our next level, is our county trial courts. When you appeal a matter from justice court to the county court, it's a mulligan. You get to just start over from scratch. So when you're at the county court level, you commonly will hear about 3 different county judges. You'll hear the names of Steve Floyd, Ben Nolan, and Penny Roberts. Judge Floyd functions as just our county judge who largely, even though you'll look at this form that I provided you, these different brackets, that is information that encompasses courts all across the state of Texas. What you'll see on there is discussions about the county judge hearing criminal cases, probate cases, guardianship cases, and a rural county, let's take Irion for example. Out there, the county judge does hear many of those types of cases. Here, because so much of our county judge's time is running the business of the county and working with the commissioner's court, they get to a point where they simply can't handle it all. Years ago, Judge Brown did handle probate matters and guardianship matters, but really we're at a point now that the vast majority of those cases are being heard at the county court at law level. So let's talk about those 2 courts. Those are 2 courts that have been created by the legislature in order to help with the docket flow because as the county grew, there were needs. County courts at law lately have been running about 5,000 to 5,500 cases a year combined. Of those cases, 80 to 85% of them are going to be criminal in nature. They're misdemeanors where you could have some type of jail time. They're DWIs, they're minors in possession, drug possession, smaller level drug possession cases. This information, if you're ever interested, is on the Texas, it's called the Texas Office of Court Administration. They maintain all of the data on all of our different courts and the courts report to them. You can go in and look at vast amounts of information. Those county courts at law, though, hear large numbers of cases, and the overwhelming majority do tend to be criminal, but they also hear civil cases. And when I talk about civil cases, sometimes that's not necessarily a civil or a friendly dispute. We're talking about a lawsuit. We're talking about cases that might be an automobile accident, a breach of contract case, or some other type of dispute that's non-criminal in nature. That's the difference between civil and criminal. Our county courts at law hear a portion of those civil cases in Tom Green County also, and now they also will regularly hear probate, where if you have a family member who's passed away and you need to go probate that will, Judge Roberts or Judge Nolan will hear those, and they also hear many of the guardianship matters. Now, in some jurisdictions, it's handled differently. Let's take Brownwood as an example. In Brown County, they have one district court, one county court at law, and then they have their county judge. They also have their justice courts. In Brownwood, they've made a decision, and the legislature helped with this, to expand the jurisdiction of the county court at law. So there in Brown County, as well in many other counties similarly sized, you will have county courts at law who also hear family law matters. That's not our case here. Our county court at law judges don't hear divorces, adoptions, child custody cases. All of those cases get heard in our district courts. And as you know, we have 4 district courts. We have the 51st Judicial District. That is the position that Barbara Walther has held for many years. That is what's called a multi-county court. We also have the 119th, which is also a multi-county court. That's Ben Woodward. Many of you, we tend to identify the judges by name, and the numbers get a little bit lost along the way. I know John has mentioned before 51st, 119th with the 2 district attorney's offices. The 51st covers 5 counties. Tom Green, Coke. Basically think of it this way. It's Tom Green, and you swing up north to Coke, around Sterling, West Arion, and back down to Schleifer. The 119th covers Tom Green and then heads out east and picks up Concho County and Runnels County. But now those two courts were created constitutionally. We also have two legislatively created district courts which have come on. One was added in 1984, and then the 391st was in 1999. The 340th was added in 1984. Those are courts that the legislature has seen a need because of the volume of cases to go ahead and add a court to the system, much like they have done with county courts of law. So we have 4 district courts that cover Tom Green County. Now, I can promise most of the lawyers in the room are already, they know all this, so this is boring. But this is the interesting thing is, I don't know of many lawyers who know this. I won't have a quiz to you guys. We have an extremely unique situation out here with our 7 counties that are covered by these 4 courts. Back in the 1980s, Rob Janelle helped to get a statute passed that we're the only situation in the entire state of Texas that has this. And that is that any of our 4 district judges has the ability to sit for each other in any of those 7 counties. What that means is that Barbara Walther, who's elected to the 51st, can go sit not just in Tom Green County on a 119th case, but she can go to Runnels County and sit as the 119th district judge. She has that ability. That was implemented at a time when we had 2 51st and 119th courts, and then we were adding the 340th. It's an efficiency measure, and that really helps with cases out here. People don't tend to even realize it's going on, but it helps the courts function much more effectively. When it was last used significantly was in 2008 when we had the FLDS case out of Schleifer County with all of those children and all of those individual hearings. Rather than having visiting judges have to go to Schleifer County and be paid by the state of Texas from they might have come from Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, anywhere. They were able to bring all of those cases to Tom Green County, where number one, we have a much better, larger courthouse able to accommodate the large volume that was going on during those cases. We have much better security during that time period. And so what they were able to do was Judge Gossett, Judge Gossett, Judge Woodward, and Judge Weatherby would all sit on 51st District Court cases from Schleifer County. So that's significant. And it's unique, and it's something that we really should be proud of, that we have that efficiency in place out here in West Texas. Now, our district courts, what do they hear? They are what's called general jurisdiction courts. We don't have, in the big cities, you will commonly have a specialized family district court, or you'll have specialized criminal district courts. And that's so that they can just effectively move cases through a specialized docket. Here, we have general jurisdiction, which is what most of the district courts in the state of Texas are. So our courts here predominantly, well, there's effectively 4 different areas that they hear. They hear family law, criminal, civil, and juvenile. In family law, because our county courts at law don't hear family law cases, all district courts hear all the divorces, all of the child custody disputes, the happy family law, which is adoptions. And that takes up about 48% of the district court's docket at this time. Last year, and I've looked at a rolling 12-month period as well as the last judicial filing year, and we run about 4,500 cases, active moving cases in the district courts. 48% of those are family law. 34% of the cases are criminal, and those are going to be your felony level. Those are the things that our elected district attorney's offices handle. And so those cases are the felony. They're the much more significant crimes that you hear about. We also then have civil cases, and that makes up about 18% of the docket. And again, when I talk about civil cases, it will be your motor vehicle accidents, breach of contract, but we'll also see issues come up that involve land. Land disputes are typically within your district courts. They won't be over in the county courts, they'll be in your district courts. So it could be a dispute over water rights, it could be a dispute over property lines. those types of, again, civil, they're hostile, trust me, they're hostile cases, but they're non-criminal in nature. And so those make up about 18% of the docket. Last is our juvenile docket. These involve where youths have committed an offense that would typically in the criminal system be called a misdemeanor or a felony. A juvenile case is typically, or is technically, a civil adjudication of delinquency. Something I had to learn when I worked at the Court of Appeals, but it is effectively, we're looking at criminal offenses by youths, and those are heard in our district courts, and those make up about 1% of the docket. I was astonished when I looked at the numbers for the filings of active cases and of new cases in the 2015 calendar year. And our juvenile justice system is working very hard on a prevention level so that we don't end up with these problems. I think I saw the numbers over the last 3 months. There have been only 2 cases filed. If the reports that have gone into Office of Court Administration are correct, which I believe they are, we have a very low number of those, and that's good. One of the things that our judges do is they work very hard to work together. They work hard to try to keep the caseload even. And you can see how that can be an issue when you have, Judge Walther has 5 counties, and with oil and gas production, many, many more significant catastrophic accidents, largely involving tractor, trailer rig, and oil field vehicles. Her dockets in the outlying counties have gotten much, much busier over the last year. You also will go through periods where the eastern counties get very busy. And then we have the unusual events like FLDS. And so our judges at the district court level work very hard, and they do at the county court level as well, but with the 4 of them, they work very hard to keep that docket balanced so that it doesn't get off kilter to one judge having more cases. I visited with Judge Walther recently and asked her in anticipation of this talk, how do y'all handle that? And she gave an example of, yikes, is that wait? She gave an example of this. We've had a number, I believe we've had 4, if my memory serves correctly, we've had 4 homicide cases in the last couple of years where we've had the death penalty as a possibility. That's a whole different animal from a criminal trial standpoint. And what the judges did was they got together, and as those cases have come in by indictment, they were assigned to a different judge. They divided those up so that no one judge, just by luck of the draw and the order of when it got filed, ended up with all of those cases. And that's helped to disseminate the workload. You know, when they get filed, you have no idea which cases will actually go to trial and which ones will plead out. But they did that in order to hopefully make it where it was an equal workload for all of them. We also have 2 associate judges that I want to talk to y'all about, because many people don't know about these, although one of our brand new associate courts just was in the Standard Times, I believe, last week. These are 2 judges who work for the district courts, and they are there to help balance out the caseload, again, and to make our district courts more effective. One of those is an Attorney General Child Support Court. Pam Talley, who many of y'all probably know, has held that position for a number of years. It's the job that Judge Walther had before she became the district judge. That court hears all of the Attorney General paternity suit filings and child support cases. What that does is that helps pull anywhere from 300 to 400 cases out of the mainstream of the district court dockets in order to allow other cases to keep moving through. It functions almost as a specialty court. We also have recently gotten through the hard work of Drew Darby, a Child Protective Services Court. We have needed this for a number of years, and it's really an asset to Tom Green County that we have this. Beginning September 1st, Gary Banks, who's an attorney who's practiced here in San Angelo, he will become the new Child Protective Services judge. Gary will hear all of the CPS cases that get filed, and he will take a tremendous amount of the docket that Jay Weatherby has voluntarily been hearing on the 340th docket, and we will move those into the CPS court. What that means is it will become, or what I think we all hope for, is it will become significantly easier to have something heard by Judge Weatherby or by any of the judges. Because what Judge Walther has informed me of is that they will do a reallocation Right now, there's probably 150 to 200 child protective services cases on Judge Weatherby's dockets. Our numbers in that area have also been trending down. But those cases, because they'll shift to Judge Banks's court, then there'll be an opportunity for other cases. Judge Walther indicated to me that they haven't reached a final decision on what they'll do, but she believes that the likely thing they'll do is move criminal cases and some family law, shift those in if a judge hasn't already been sitting on temporary orders or something in a family law case.
Carmen, I have a question on that.
Yes, sir.
When I read that in the paper last week on Judge Banks, he's not an elected judge, he was appointed. Who appoints him?
That position, our associate courts across the state of Texas are appointed by what's called a regional administrative judge. Tom Green County and all of our courts here are part of the 7th Judicial Administrative Region. So we are encompassed with counties from Midland, Odessa, and headed out west. I don't believe, I'm not sure if Big Spring is in that or not. No, I believe it is. And so it encompasses all of that. And then there is one judge, in this instance it's been Dean Rucker, who was a family court in Midland. They had a special family court over there, and he was the family court judge in Midland for a number of years. And Judge Rucker works on those administrative decisions about appointing. It's an appointment, it's not an election, and my understanding is that now every 4 years you have to be reevaluated for an appointment. That was a statute that just passed. Yes, Andrew?
Also, you keep talking about, kind of goes along with what Fred was asking, give you a chance to sip water. You also mentioned, Judge Rucker, but you talked about things with Judge Walther. If you could explain her role for our local judges.
Absolutely. Let me explain that. Judge Walther is currently serving as I think they call it the presiding judge. She handles the administrative functions for our 4 district courts. For a number of years, it has been Jen Woodward. They rotate that duty, or as I understand, they'll get together at the beginning of each year and say, okay, who wants to do it? so Judge Walther has taken it on for now. Like I said, Judge Woodward has done it for a number of years. She doesn't have any greater seniority. It doesn't make any difference as to the cases she hears. It's more just someone needs to work with that administrative function for the court, and so she's working on that. And that's the reason I contacted Judge Walther and asked her, what's the plan? Because I knew as the presiding judge, she would have an idea of that. I want to move on quickly to appeals, and then I want to give y'all an opportunity for questions, because I think that's really the area we need to go into. Y'all commonly, I'm sure, have seen candidates come out from the Austin Court of Appeals. We've had Jeff Rose. I think if I can rattle them off. Jeff Rose is Chief Justice. Then we have Justice Purrier, Justice Pemberton, Justice Field, Melissa Goodwin. Who am I missing, guys?
The new one.
Justice Briard, Cindy Briard, who was appointed from Austin. There are 6 justices that sit on the Austin Court of Appeals. And that court is where all of our trial court cases go on appeal. They will go to Austin from the district courts as well as from the county court of law. Now don't get that confused with, if you have a JP court case and you go to county court of law, you get to try it all over again from scratch, the county court of law. And then, still if you're unhappy, then you go to the Austin Court of Appeals. So they go there. Now the Austin court is unique. And it was one of the things that was interesting when I worked there, because with Travis County as a part of the Austin court jurisdiction, and the Austin court comes out here to West Texas, it swings down into Hayes County, and it goes up toward, does not include Bryan College Station, but it goes up toward the Bryan College Station area. And that court covers a tremendous amount of territory. But they hear all of the appeals that deal with state agencies. If there's any type of issue that comes up with regard to a particular regulation that's passed, let's say by the General Land Office or something out of the Comptroller's Office, if it was a tax case, then those cases are appealed from that state agency directly to a district court in Travis County, and they all must go to the Austin Court of Appeals. None of the other 13 appellate courts hear what's called administrative law cases. And so they make some very important and significant decisions that deal with state regulations because of that. They also hear criminal cases and civil cases that come out of all of the district courts throughout the region. Now, once you get to the Austin Court of Appeals, cases split. If you're going to appeal to one of our final courts, Civil cases will go to the Supreme Court of Texas. That's where any type of business interest, breach of contract, family law matter, that's where all of those cases will go. And the criminal cases head toward the Court of Criminal Appeals. One situation that is unique with regard to the Austin Court and the Court of Criminal Appeals, or any of the intermediate appellate courts, death penalty cases bypass the intermediate court and go straight to the Court of Criminal Appeals. So that's one unique situation there. Now, questions. Y'all have heard me talk plenty. Let's hear from y'all. Is everyone awake? I can get down, and here's the scary thing. I can get down in the weeds and talk about this stuff for hours because it's just something I live, it's something that I'm passionate about, but it can drone on. So, any questions about the, yes sir?
You said there were 4 district courts and everybody knows the 4. I heard you cite the 54th, 119th, 340th, and?
391st.
I knew that. Thank you.
That's okay. Absolutely, absolutely. I will tell you one thing about appellate court cases. Those courts also, the intermediate appellate courts, have a rebalancing system as well. Many times we'll see a case that's trying to get cases moved through the courts effectively and quickly. Many times our appellate courts will have to rebalance. They will say, well, San Antonio has too many, and so we will shift over to Eastland. We've gone through a period where the Austin Court of Appeals commonly had to send cases out to Eastland. That, under Justice Rose's leadership, that number is reducing, and they're much more able to hear their own cases, which is good for us. We like to have the justices that we know ruling on those cases. They know our area, they come out here, they know our district. And so that's beneficial in that regard. But that Austin court also, when I worked there at the court, we had cases coming in that we were working on from Fort Worth, from Houston, all over the place. Yes, Judge Howard.
This is tongue in cheek, but on this chart, I would sure like to see you raise the justice court just a little bit above municipal court, because the municipal court's category of cases may hear about, let's say, 10 justices of the peace, 50 or 60 different kinds of jurisdictional cases. The municipal court doesn't even have a clue of. So I think we ought to be raised up just a little bit.
I agree with you, Judge Howard. When I was trying to figure out what to leave in and what to take out, I thought about not even addressing the municipal courts, but then I thought, next time I get a speeding ticket, Judge Gilbert will have my head for that one. But Judge Howard is right.
All the inferior courts need to get recognized.
No, certainly not. You know the times I've been in front of you, Your Honor, that I often say I do some of my best work in front of Judge Howard. So. No. Y'all serve an invaluable service.
A question over here.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now which ones do we vote for, the 119th?
In Tom Green County, registered voters have the opportunity when they come up for election cycle, depending on which precinct you're in, you would be voting for your Justice of the Peace, one of these 3 over here, as well as K. Longest. There are Justices of the Peace. You would be voting for County Judge, which that's that largely administrative position that Steve Floyd currently holds. County Courts at Law, we have 2 of those at this time, and they're simply called County Court at Law and County Court at Law number 2. They're easier to keep up with, frankly. And then if you're in Tom Green County, all 4 of those district courts are courts that when they're up for election, voters in Tom Green County would be able to vote for. If you live in, for instance, Runnels County, then the district judge that you vote for would simply be the 119th, as well as your Runnels County courts out there. And then, of course, our appellate, Austin Court of Appeals is our appellate district. Texas Supreme Court, there's 9 positions there, and 9 positions on the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, but they don't all come up for re-election at the same time.
Well, a lot of times you don't know anything about the people running. I mean, you know because you work with them, but the general public, we don't know much about them.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know that at this time, Justice Deborah Lerman is making an effort to be out in Tom Ring County, but typically our Supreme Court justices don't have a significant amount of time to come to the rural areas. Their election battles are fought in the major cities. Our Austin Court of Appeals justices, they make a point to be out here, and they're out here fairly frequently. Yes, sir.
You seem to know the subject pretty well. Would you have any suggestions for improving it in any way whatsoever?
Frankly, I think our system works well. I think that our courts work extremely well together. I know that from every level, and I've had experience at every level. I've been in municipal court on my own matter, but I've handled cases in front of Judge Howard and in front of some of our other JPs in the past. And our courts really do work well. They work hard to try to apply justice fairly. Our judges have high integrity, and that really, as an attorney practicing before the court, that's what I always want. I want someone who works hard. I want someone who is fair. I want someone where even if it doesn't go my client's way, I know we've had our fair day in court. And I feel like in Tom Ring County we have that. There are other parts of the state that I think people sometimes have questions. And we are very blessed to have that type of judicial leadership out here in West Texas and Tom Ring County.
Which one is Deborah running for?
Justice Lerman,
Yes.
she is currently running for re-election on the Texas Supreme Court, and I apologize, I cannot remember her place number.
It's okay.
It's either 1 through 9. All right. I know we need to wrap up. I want to leave with one closing thought. Our courts are open. I'm amazed at people. During the Warren Jeff trial, so many people said to me after the fact, friends said, I had no idea I could go watch. You can. Our courthouse is open. Yes, you'll go through security. Don't take your handgun. Or you'll be visiting with the sheriff, and possibly the district attorney's office. But no, our courts are open. If you show up at any of our courthouses on any given weekday at about 9 o'clock in the morning or about 2 o'clock, you can walk into a courtroom. You can sit down in a non-disruptive way, typically. Sit down and you can watch, and you will hear an assortment of cases. You may hear criminal pleas. You may hear a divorce case. You may hear lawyers arguing motions about evidence that is coming up in a big civil trial. And so it's interesting, but don't be hesitant to come in. People think our courthouse is closed, and it's not. It's open to the public. It's open for people to come, let that sunshine in and see what's going on.
Yeah, Rick.
I just have one more question. Who's responsible to make sure that those judges all have a place to hold court?
I asked Gary Banks last week. I said, well, Gary, which courtroom will you be in? He said, I don't know. I think I'm going to float. And he made some comment about the men's room on the third floor. But anyway, no, y'all do a good job to make sure that we have the space that we need. And again, the judges work well together. That's part of the benefit, is they shift around. If someone needs a big courtroom, they don't hold ownership to the courtrooms that they typically sit in on an individual day. They work well together, and that's part of what makes our system work well.
Thank you, Carmen. Let's give her a hand.